Today we're learning a piece named Gnossienne No. 1 by the French composer Erik Satie. I hope I'm saying that all correctly. The part we're learning today sounds like this. And that the part that we're learning today repeats. So once you learn that, you just double that. You play it twice in a row, and you've got a large chunk of the song. So the first thing I want to point out to you is the left hand. And what you're playing here is an F with your pinky, and it's the F that's two Fs below middle C. So this is middle C on my keyboard. Here's the first F, and you want to find the one that's two below. And it's going to be playing that low F, and it's going to be jumping all the way back up here to around the middle of the keyboard. Your middle finger is going to be playing a C, so your three fingers playing a C, your thumb or your one finger is playing an F, those two, and your pinky is playing an A flat. Trying to get my fingers out of the way so you can sort of see those. So the pattern is you're going to go down, you're going to play a low F, and you're going to come up here, and you're going to play this chord. And if you want to, one way that you can think about it is if you bring this F up an octave higher and you play all those notes at the same time, you can kind of see that you're playing an F minor chord, and it has another F on the top, but that's okay, it's still an F minor chord. You just put this F an octave lower, that's the octave, and you complete it with your right hand. So that might make it easier for some of you who are already pretty good at chords a little bit, or starting to be, to understand how this left hand works. So the rhythmic pattern, if you're counting to 4 and starting over, that's a good way to do it. You count 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're playing notes on the 1, the 2, and the 4, and not the 3 with your left hand. You're playing that low root with on the 1. You're playing the chord on the top. 2. You hold it through for 3. 3, 4. You play it on 4. That rhythmic pattern is the same for the whole part that we're learning today. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you want to take a second just to get comfortable with that little. It's sort of like a boom chuck sort of a pattern, but not quite. It's got a stride piano thing going on. So you come down here, you play that F, and you play the F minor completion of that chord up here. It's an F minor chord that you're playing that's inverted a couple times, or inverted once. So if that makes sense to you, cool. If it doesn't, don't worry about it. You'll still be able to play it. So now that you've got the left hand, I want to take a second to show you a piece of the right hand, and you want to hear this melody. You probably want to listen to the song a bunch before you try to play it, but you want to hear this melody. You'll notice that there's lots of grace notes in this song. Those are those little notes that come right before notes. And they're meant to almost be played in passing, like really, usually they're like just barely there, such that you could almost think about playing it without them being there, and that's a better way to write the music. But since this piece is played so slowly, you might actually hear those grace notes almost as if they were notes written. But that's sort of an interpretation question, and I'll leave it up to you to decide how you want to play that. I'm just going to show you all the notes. So what you've got in your right hand is a C, an E flat, a D natural, a C, and the C is going to be a grace note that leads into a B natural. And you're going to repeat that. So let me show you how just that little piece of the right hand ties into the left hand. I'm going to play on the 1 with the left hand, and then I'm going to start on the 2 from counting with my right hand, or when I play this chord. You notice that once I start doing these sort of things here with the left hand, things sort of get offset, and that's because this is on the 1 and the 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is, you remember, is on the 2s and the 4s. So 1, 2, 3, 4. The 1s and the 3s and the 2s and the 4s. I don't know if I said 4 over here, but 1s and 3s, 2s and 4s. So it's always going to be sort of offset, that little part. All right, so here it is. You want to try to take a few minutes to get this smooth in your hands. You play that low F, 1, 2, and 3, 4. Kind of like that. Okay, so I started in on the next measure. You notice that it's very similar to the first one, and the only difference is instead of moving from the C to a B natural, bam, bam, with the grace notes, you're going to go from an E to an F, still like those two white notes that are close to each other. All right, so let me show you the right hand that we've learned so far. Okay. So we've just played all that, and your left hand, by the way, is continuing to do the exact same thing, that F minor stride piano thing. Now you're gonna sort of start over, so think about starting over for just the beginning. Okay. So instead of playing that C to the B natural grace note combo the second time, once we're at this part again, we're gonna jump the second one down to an A flat and a G. All right, so here's that that little piece there. And now here's an interesting part. You've just targeted this G with that grace note before, the A flat. And now you're gonna target the G, but from the bottom. So you're gonna go an F to a G. And as soon as you hit the G that time you move from the F to the G, your pinky is gonna play a C. So that's the part you're playing. So you've got that G and your pinky plays in a C and in your left hand, and you'll see that the notes that comprise the chord that you play with the left hand to complete this little part, which is the same rhythmic pattern as the part before. The only difference is you don't have to move your hand as much. You can actually have almost, if your hands are large enough, you can have your whole hand just ready to go on those three notes. And if you look closely, you can see that you're completing a C minor chord. You've got a C, that's the root, and then you complete that with this rhythmic pattern with these three notes, which is basically an inverted C minor chord. And again, if that makes sense to you, cool. If it doesn't, don't worry about it. So here's the parts that I showed you before leading into that C minor, and I'm going to show you how you get out of that part as well. Because you only do that for a measure. So here it is. So you see I did this ba-da, ba-da, so it's like a 1, 2. On the 1 and the 2 I'm playing that G with the grace note before. And this last little bit you need to learn, it's very quick out of that C minor part. You do a grace note from an A flat to a G, right as at the start of the next measure out of the C, and as soon as you hit that G this time, your pinky is back to an F. And your left hand is doing the same thing that it's used to, that it's usually doing the C and the F and the F minor chord at the top. And the only difference is you do a grace note completion from this G to an F G to an F, right, which is the same note that your thumb is playing in the left hand. I still actually recommend playing both. So, and then after that there's a repeat, so you repeat all that stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show it to you all kind of in smooth and connected and sort of slow motion and try to call things to your attention as it makes sense. Alright, so here it is once all the way through. Left hand on the 1, low F. 1, 2. Grace note, down, down again, offset here. Now it goes up to the F. Left hand still the same. Now this time, we're going to go to the G. Now we're going to go up to the G while I move to the C minor here, and then down to the G while I switch back to that left hand. And the only thing that I missed is that little grace note into the F here. And then you would repeat the whole thing. And that's the first part.